Well, now on BBC Two, he's not a number, he's Jools Holland, and he's got one foot in the past.
So the question that a lot of you are probably asking yourselves is, hey, what does he know about architecture? He's a pianist. Well, the answer is very little until I came here. This place, Portmeirion, designed by the architectural magician, Clough Williams Ellis. Sir Clough Williams Ellis started to build Portmeirion in the 1920s, and one of the beautiful things about it is its apparently random layout, because he sort of made it up as he went along. It kind of proves the one thing that the ancient architectural experts like Palladio tell us, and all estate agents, that it's all in the 3 L's. That's location, 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 and location. Overall, it's like lots of giant garden ornaments placed around a beautiful, surrealist sort of dream landscape. And everywhere you go, there's lovely places where you can sort of have a nice view out. And that's what it's all about, having a view. So I'd stand here and have a view. Let me point a few things out to you, if I may. For instance, this little square here. Charming little square. It could be anywhere, because there's Kentish weatherboarding here. If we just go that way again, look, strange figure here, a mystery, theatrical type of figure, I think we could call him. You see the people in human scale. Lovely arch there, Italian sort of arch. Kent, Italy, the whole thing, all my favourite places rolled into one. And this Mediterranean colouring and the sort of wrought iron bits. And if we look at a little urn there, you see, up, please, you can see this Italianate tower, and surmounted at the very top by this Christopher Wren style weather vane that can be seen on many of his buildings. It may even be one from one that was pulled down, who can tell? That's the sort of thing that Clough would have collected. Sir Clough Williams Ellis, who sadly died in 1978, was the, I've been waiting to say this for a while, the doyen of classical illusionists. If you are, for instance, presented with a great big plain wall with nothing on it, why not enliven it by painting a few windows on it? Nothing here is quite what it seems. Clough Williams Ellis, trying to enlighten everybody to different sorts of architecture, had 5 questions that he suggests the layman, or the voter, put to the buildings. So let's try and put some of his questions to his own buildings. Are you, or were you, for a reasonable period, structurally efficient so that your doors and windows opened and shut properly and you kept out the weather? Well, it looks pretty sound to me. Hello, is there anybody in? Hello. Hello, everything working okay?
Yes, fine.
Doors and windows okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Have you got a general architectural theme which you try to express? I think so. Gaily coloured Italianate. Do you seem beautiful to me? If not, did you at any rate seem beautiful, not merely correct or expansive, to those that built you? Well, I'm sure it did. It's very beautiful, and it is, after all, just a simple parade of shops. Are you a good neighbour so that your setting or any building near you gains rather than loses by your presence? Well, just looking around here, I think the answer has to be yes. Do you fulfil your function adequately and with a minimum of friction? Well, this building is called Watch House. It's where Noel Coward wrote Blithe Spirit. It's one of the first buildings to be built. And does it fulfil its function? Well, it's called Watch House, and so you would hope that there would be a view from here. Glancing out, we discover that there is. Right, I think let's take a break and look at some of my dirty pictures. Here we are. Here's a rather grubby, hardcore picture that I've made myself of this building here. If you love these buildings, you sketch them. The other thing you do, as well as sketching them, is, of course, you measure them. And in measuring these buildings, one of the things I have understood is that they're all on a rather small scale, which adds to their charm. This, you see, these are only 2 foot across, these bits here. The whole thing only about 30 foot across. And also, what sort of a purpose does this building have? Well, it's to make speeches from. It's a gloriette. The columns he lost in the garden, Clough Williams says. He lost them somewhere in the garden. They were taken from Stowe School, which is the largest landscape work of art probably in Britain, and he sort of made them into this gloriette. And there we are. So if you were a sort of a budding Mussolini or something, wanted to make a bit of a speech, pop up there. I'm not, so I'm going to move over here. The beautiful thing, the brilliant, thrilling thing about this building is the fact that the closer you get to it, the smaller it becomes, until you get right up close and realise that underneath it it's just hollowed out, and above is a simple 3-room bungalow, a miniature little sort of doll's house that you could live in, with a beautiful facade, with a bit of breeze block and rendering. Beautiful, I think. One of his intentions in building this place was to open people's eyes to architecture. The average man or woman in the street like myself that didn't have a clue could suddenly be inspired to go and look and investigate more, and that's what I've done. Perhaps if you'd care to join me in my London office, I can explain further. Well, welcome to my London office. So it was a convenient coincidence that I visited Portmeirion just before I started work on designing this, my London studios, caretaker's flat and office. In fact, Portmeirion, when I visited, confirmed what I'd already thought. When building a building, it has to be as unusual as possible. If you'd have visited this site 6 years ago, you would have been confronted and dazzled by just a load of breeze blocks there. We had a blank canvas and we had to fill it with something, so we decided, in fact my friend Eddie suggested to me, to make it into the facade of a railway station. It's about 100 yards from a railway line, so it blends in with its environment. You can have flowers and a garden. Not long ago, an old lady came down here and told me, she said, I remember when the trains used to stop here, which just goes to show you how fantasy can enter the realm of the popular imagination in no time at all. Now this herb garden is the beginning of my real Portmeirion style. As you can see in the background here, Fred the builder, who's built all of this station, is building a little, what's going to be a cylindrical temple with a dome on the top of it, only big enough for children or stag beetles to store their garden tools in. But this is just the beginning. Perhaps you'll recognise this building. It is a copy, more or less a copy, of the Unicorn building which I was standing in front of in Portmeirion. Unfortunately, I have planning permission to use this facade on front of these buildings here when we extend the studio within there. Instead of just a boring breeze block sort of lump, we'll have this charming doll's house facade on the exterior. And over here, I intend to try and convert these garages into something a little more interesting. A small 2-storey building. I shall be taking the roof line across here like this, taking this little motif and sticking it up in a pediment I'll build here, using this, a quarter scale of an Inigo Jones design for a building. The people, of course, being about this big so they can walk across laughing and singing there. Well, I may not be a great architect, but I have a great deal of fun, and I'm sure Clough Williams Ellis would have approved of that. To conclude, we've had some very exciting news indeed. I've been commissioned to design a gatehouse for Wishton Castle in County Durham. Many of you might be saying to yourselves, hey, I'd like that Jools Holland to design a garden ornament for me. Many of you may be thinking, certainly not. However, unfortunately, I'm very busy playing the piano, but if you have a very interesting project, then you can write in to me and I might consider it, fitting in with all this other busy schedule. Thank you, goodbye.